That was a clip from one of Samurai Jack's first episodes. And now in the background, that is probably how your school environment looks like. An evil and destructive place created to shackle you, to rid you of your freedoms and your imagination. You could even claim that school is a place that tries to teleport you to an unknown future without preparing you for it. A future that will do its best to fight against you. A future that you will always try to escape from, always try to go back to simpler times to try to go back to the past. Back to the past, Samurai Jack. The clip I just showed you at the start is from the first season of Samurai Jack. It's the moment the protagonist realizes his detriment, focusing on too many things at once. Jack is put up against 3 archers in this episode. 3 archers that had just turned a complete robot battalion into this.
I alone was the only survivor.
We then follow along with Jack throughout the episode, wondering how 3 archers are able to basically predict every single one of his actions. And then we get one visual clue. These archers aren't just regular archers, they are blind archers. A fact that Jack then reassures by realizing that they are not able to see his head waving in the air, but react nearly instantly to the sound of the head hitting the ground. We and the protagonist just realized something that can be crucial for everyone's life. Focus is key. Life is full of distractions and monsters to fight. If we don't learn to focus, we get lost in the subtle details while a huge monster creeps up behind us. Run. Sometimes the best solution to a problem is to just shut off all your senses and focus on the essential. Not every challenge in life will ask you for this skill, but when applying for a job, for example, when displaying your expertise is necessary, it will be crucial. And when fighting off 3 blind archers, you won't have any other option. Sometimes you just have to be able to adapt to the competition, to close your eyes and listen.
No tricks this time. We're ready to challenge you, okay?
Yes! Let the Globnar begin! Prepare for Globnar!
Hey, turns out I can mute him.
Man, I'd wish we'd known that earlier.
Before I explain how school ties into all of this, let me introduce you to the mastermind himself, Genndy Tartakovsky. Now here is a man that has influenced an industry more than you could ever imagine, and that's not just me exaggerating. This man is single-handedly responsible for creating masterworks like Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and the original Star Wars The Clone Wars micro-series. He also played a pivotal role in creating the Powerpuff Girls, Two Stupid Dogs, and Batman the Animated Series, and after pitching the idea of Dexter's Lab to Cartoon Network, he influenced many young minds, a few of which turned out to be Seth MacFarlane and Butch Hartman, who respectively went on to produce their own TV shows, like Family Guy and American Dad, or Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom. And if this alone wasn't enough, let me just put the final nail in the coffin then. Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, the duo that created Avatar The Last Airbender, worked on Family Guy before they decided to create Avatar. So if you take away Genndy from this picture, you might be saying goodbye to a whole lot more than you would initially assume. What made Genndy Tartakovsky so special then? And more essential for this video, what made Samurai Jack so important? Genndy has a special animation style. Not in the sense of how the animation looks, but more in how it is portrayed to the viewer. We as viewers have gotten used to listening to the words that are told to us, to passively accept what is being said, word by word. But sometimes all those words are just there to distract you from the mess that lies underneath it all. But it does not matter how many words you stuff into a movie or a TV show. If the base is rotten, the smell will inevitably rise to the top. You can only disguise it for so long. As Genndy Tartakovsky said himself, there's too much dialogue on animated shows nowadays, and I try to stand out by forcing you to pay attention through silence. In Samurai Jack, he portrays this beautifully well. When possible, Genndy never tries to tell Jack's story through words, but with beautiful sceneries and spectacular art and sound design. For a TV show with such a banging soundtrack, there is comparatively little said in the episodes themselves. Genndy has always tried to tell Jack's story by way of aesthetic. Therefore, Samurai Jack turns out to be very quiet. In Jack and the Three Blind Archers, for example, there is a total of 396 words that are spoken throughout the 23-minute long episode. Yes, I counted every single one of them. This is an average of 17 words spoken per minute, which might not mean a lot to you, but for perspective, the last sentence I just uttered had more than 17 words in it. So maybe let that sink in for a second. Samurai Jack doesn't try to yell at you to be funny, or speak in paragraphs to portray a meaningful message. It simply is, and it lets you breathe. But it's not just a show of pretty images and cool action sequences either. It's a whole lot more than that, and if you focus on the essential, you can't miss it. Genndy's work with Samurai Jack is special not because of how beautiful the imagery is, but because of how the imagery is shown. Most TV shows will have the same perspective throughout the entire run of the show. A 16:9 ratio, or back in the day, a 4:3 ratio. But this show does things differently. When Genndy thought that something in the scene was particularly important, he made sure to cut out everything else from the episode, changing the ratio of the episode sometimes for only a few seconds to cut off everything that is not essential, and only show what is important for the plot. By blacking out most of the screen, he forces you to focus without having to shout it from the rooftops. Sometimes he would even accomplish the same result by having entire sequences being drawn in black and white. No colors and no textures to distract you, but only the outlines of the fighters. Only what is essential. Only what is important. Just like Jack, who learned that after closing his eyes, he had opened himself up for new possibilities. He allowed himself to have a fighting chance by focusing on what's essential. Minimalism done right.
So, school. School. You go to school?
Yes?
Excellent. Have they taught you cursive?
What? Yes, in 3rd grade.
Good. You're gonna need that. A lot of business takes place in cursive.
As this clip from American Dad perfectly summarizes, in school you are not taught many things, or at least not many things that are useful. But there is one thing that school teaches you, one thing that every school system goes out of its way to hammer into your head, a teaching that is so destructive that when not unlearned can devastate your entire future. The teaching of being average at everything you do. School is not a place to excel at, it's not a place to be the best at, it's a place where you are tested on a myriad of subjects, where you need to be above average in every single one of them, and where you need to ignore your strengths to improve your weaknesses. You might have a natural talent for math and physics and enjoy those subjects, but if you struggle with languages, you will have to give up time away from your passion to focus on subjects that you will never use again. Topics that will only take room away from your brain, and topics that will slow down your progress in the future. Now, there is an argument to be made about children not necessarily knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, but we give children way too little credit, and either way, this process of being forced to try out and finish every single subject should end way sooner, long before high school even starts. And let me tell you, if you grow up testing out every subject and are never allowed to delve deeper into one subject, you'll turn out to be a jack of all trades. But the real world nowadays has no room left for these people. Throughout centuries, we humans have gathered a massive amount of information to a point where it is literally impossible for one human to know everything, no matter how hard he tries. So nowadays, we refer back to experts. Experts who have dedicated their entire life to one subject, one mission, no distractions. You can even test that yourself next time you go to the doctor. How many times have you gone to the doctor just to have him tell you to see an expert on the issue? Probably more often than not. The world is built on experts, not jacks of all trades. We need to focus on plan A. There is no point in having plan B, it will only distract from plan A. Now, how does this tie back to Samurai Jack? The show has many teachings that do a better job of preparing you for life than school. But today, I only want to focus on one main subject. As Samurai Jack taught me himself, sometimes less is more. As a kid, I was always told by my teachers that I was a minimalist, that I didn't try hard enough even though my grades were great. What they meant was that just because my grades were one of the best in class, did not mean that I should just take my time off and do my own things. In their eyes, I should have done even more useless stuff that would have taught me nothing important at all. Thankfully, I never listened. I didn't realize it back then, but when watching Samurai Jack, I was being told by Genndy himself to focus. To always have my eye on a prize and put all my focus into that. Because being a minimalist is not a negative attribute. At least it doesn't have to be. Samurai Jack taught me that, and it did so without having to force anything upon me. Not by telling, but by showing. by making me realize that life's evil will take on many forms, and if I am not ready to focus, I will be consumed by it. If I try to achieve everything to perfection, madness will consume me. If I am not ready to close my eyes and listen, I might not hear the enemy behind my back. If I try too much at once, I will achieve none. Don't be a jack of all trades. Be a samurai jack. Thanks a lot, guys. This channel is all about looking at video games and pop culture from a different perspective, about digging deeper into the meaning of life and how we can get there with video games, movies, and TV shows, how we can learn valuable life lessons from them, and every now and then I'll be analyzing them as well. So if that interests you, maybe subscribe, maybe hit the bell to be notified. What about that? Yeah? Okay, good. See ya!
I guess this means we'll always be together.